I was watching one of Dave Rubin's live streams building his new set last week, and he took a question from the chat about a distinct moment when he knew the left was losing its way.
Do you recognize a specific pivotal memory when you realized the left was regressing? The one that I've talked about the most, and I think many of you have said this to me also, was the moment that Sam Harris was on Real Time, because when Ben Affleck called him and Bill Maher gross and racist, in effect, Bill, who had been the standard bearer of the left always fighting for the other and for minorities and all that, and all Sam did was repeat Pew polls, and it was such a blatant example of Ben Affleck, this moral indignation that was nothing. It was just nonsense.
I remember watching that show when it aired a year and a half ago, furrowing my brow with skepticism as well.
The crucial point of confusion is that we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
You're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people. And that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist. It's not. But it's so nuts.
It's like saying those stateless shifty Jew.
You're not listening
Absolutely
to
not.
what we are saying.
It was one of the earliest examples I can remember of what is now the liberal epidemic of the inability to separate people from ideas. You can't criticize Islam because that makes you bigoted towards the followers of the faith as people. The person and the ideas in his or her head are the same thing. Inseparable items. But what happens if we reverse that way of thinking? If you disagree with someone's ideas, that makes him a bad person. So if you can show that he's a good person, it naturally follows you should agree with his ideas. Or at least accept those ideas. Don't let your brain get twisted too much. Thankfully, this week, MTV News uploaded a video that follows that exact line of reasoning. So we can try to make sense of it using a real-life example.
There are over 1 billion Muslims worldwide, ranging in every size, shape, and color, even though Hollywood and the news might lead you to believe otherwise. So to prove how ridiculous it is to assume you can tell who is or isn't a Muslim, we sent our friend Kareem into the streets of New York to play a little game we like to call, Can You Guess the Muslim?
I don't think I've ever heard a critic of Islam brag about how good he is at playing Where's Muhammad Al Waldo. Oh, there he is. There's the prophet and his 9 wives. God, I am so good at this. I can't wait to tell the guys how freaking good I am at this. So I'm unclear why this is the establishing premise for this video, but let's see it through.
There's 5 people on this list that are Muslim. Since 25% of the world is Muslim, and I want you to choose them.
He's Muslim and he's Muslim.
Wow, you actually did better than a lot of people. You got 3 Muslims. I'll actually tell you who they were. That's an Indonesian right there. And then we got that woman, Chinese Muslim. That's the next one. And this woman there.
So if you see a woman in a hijab, it's wrong to assume she's Muslim. I thought that was the point of this game. But you put in a person with that obvious, distinctly Muslim characteristic to demonstrate that point. And now it's time for everyone's favorite game, Can You Spot the Football Player? Yeah, I think it's that one dude on the right there. Oh, it's wrong of you to judge, but you are correct. I'm starting to think this game is too easy.
You're gonna choose from these celebrities who you think is the Muslim.
Is Aziz?
Close, but no.
Gotta go with Dave Chappelle.
It's Dave Chappelle. You guys are good. This is a band from One Direction. Tell me, out of these 3, who is the Muslim?
I'm gonna go with the obvious and say Zayn Malik.
Good job, man. High five. Out of these 3, who is the Muslim?
Lauren.
No, wrong. But
Then it has to be Janet then.
That's right.
Really?
It's Janet Jackson.
Really?
Okay, but these are all westernized celebrities, hardly representative of global Islam. Pew Research finds sizable, in many countries effectively unanimous support for Sharia law as official state legal code. Under that framework, Dave Chappelle is executed for blasphemy.
I don't necessarily practice the way a good Muslim is supposed to practice.
Janet Jackson gets stoned for boob slip. And Zayn Malik gets tossed off a building as soon as the state finds this picture.
I do want to ask you, what did you learn from this?
And here's the part where we'll see the twist in reasoning I was discussing earlier. Based on what we've seen so far, all we can conclude is that there's more than meets the eye when identifying Muslims in a secular, modernized society. But that shouldn't surprise us. Islam is a set of ideas, not people. You could play this game with any other philosophically organized group. Spot the Republican, spot the Christian, spot the Star Wars fan. All we've done is show that people of different appearances can have the same ideas, but we haven't discussed the merits or faults of the ideas themselves. But if people and ideas are the same thing, then showing people are good, or just like us, means their ideas are good, or just like ours too.
The fact that there are people like Donald Trump and other people who are taking extremist values and putting that on 25% of the people in the world, it's a shame.
Exactly backwards. You've taken the fringe of Islam, Western celebrities, and treated them as representative of global Islam. The quote, extremist values are actually commonplace. Pick your poison, Sharia as state law, women as subservient to husbands, stoning as the appropriate penalty for adultery, death as the appropriate penalty for apostasy. These are common beliefs. The problem, in fact, is ignoring the values of 25% of the world and treating them as an inconsequential fringe.
Everything that's going on in the current situation, what do you think it's like for Muslims in America right now?
There's massive amounts of discrimination with the Orlando shooting, which is crazy because a lot of my Muslim friends are queer, and it's terrifying to walk around and be afraid that people are going to judge you based on your look and then perpetuate those stereotypes onto you, and it's really wrong and scary.
Oh, how terrifying to fear judgment in the United States as a queer Muslim. The looks of skepticism and disapproval, I can't imagine. I don't want to minimize your friends' experiences, but the closest thing I can imagine is being shot in a nightclub or thrown off a building for being gay, with your society in near unanimous agreement that your lifestyle is morally unacceptable.
People don't know enough about Muslims, not just the way they look, it's the way they live. The more people would know about their Muslim, maybe they'd accept them more.
So learning about Islam means accepting its teachings. Well, tell that to Germany, who welcomed refugees from Islamic nations, and now 2/3 of Germans say Islam is incompatible with secular democratic values. Tell that to Sweden, who welcomed immigrants from Islamic nations and now votes nationalist parties into power to deal with the problem of being the rape capital of the Western world. Tell me, is it that despite these open door policies, Europeans simply didn't learn enough about Islam? Just send MTV News over to Europe on some education tour, and the problems that drive European public opinion against Islam will simply vanish? MTV News is right about one thing, though I'd argue incidentally, and I'm not going to give them credit for what should be a basic concept. You can't tell much about a person's ideas simply by looking at the person. To assess those ideas, you need to examine them with questions. But if those questions and their findings are off the table in the name of opposition to bigotry or whatever other virtuous reason, all that's left is to judge a person based on looks, which I thought was the bad thing to do. Hence the point of this video.
Coco, how do you feel about Donald Trump? He's like, don't ask me that question.
It's all clear now. It's Trump's fault. See, I knew there was sensibility in there somewhere. Just had to wait till the end. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is @skag_3. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Okay, bye.